Now I have the pleasure. I know you're a Hall of Fame producer. You're building a big team, but to be honest, I've seen you around. I don't really know you, and so I'm always really excited to meet someone crushing it who I'm not familiar with. So for myself and for other people who aren't familiar with you, tell us how you got into Family First Life, how long you've been with us, just a general overview of you real quick.
Sure, that's not a problem. Well, first of all, thank you again. It's an honor to be on and just try to pour into your guys, and anything I can do to help them, I'll do my very best. And I just consider myself a little humble servant, just trying to help everybody out as much as I can. But
Appreciate
back
that.
in 2018, through this is this being recorded?
It is.
Okay. Um, Through another IMO company, I was working with Verizon at the time, or it's a contract company called Sell Your Sales here in Tennessee. And I was doing pretty good. I mean, I was probably averaging about 90 to close to 100,000 my last year, but they were making some changes, and they were going to actually cut our commission back. And it was getting to the point that I was starting to see the writing on the wall, long hours and less pay. I'm like, well, there's got to be something else. And I knew I wasn't going to move up in the company, because when you're dealing with a corporate world like Verizon is, it's just hard to move. They just want you to sell as much as you can. So I started looking around, and I came across another IMO, and then they wanted me, and I didn't know nothing about insurance, to be honest with you. Had nothing, didn't know anything about it. I didn't have a license, but they wanted me to sign a contract. They wanted me to fork out a lot of money up front before I even get my license. And plus, it was only going to be at 50% comp rate. And I'm like, okay, I don't know a lot about this, but it sounds pretty decent. So we'll try it. Well, I was there at the office, and another friend of mine said, wait, don't do it. I've got someone else that is in the business, and let me see if I can find out some more information. So that evening, I got a phone call back from him, and said, you need to wait. Don't sign anything. There is a company that I have heard about, Family First Life, and they are phenomenal, got higher comps. And so, make a long story short, he got me in touch with his friend, who Mike Schroeds hired. And so I contacted him. He contacted Mike Schroeds. Mike Schroeds and I got involved. And the gentleman that originally introduced me to him, he's no longer in the business. But the guy that told me not to do it, he is now, I turned around and hired him a little bit later. So he's working underneath me. And he said, I wished 1,000 times I would have went ahead and jumped on board with you. But hindsight's always 20/20. But Mike Schroeds showed me about the business, and that was July 2018, and going on 3 years in this July. And so it's been a phenomenal road. It's exciting to see the changes and what the growth that's going on. And so it's just unbelievable what's happening.
Absolutely. So you jumped in. Tell me that year again.
It was July 2018.
2018. Okay. And beginning of the year, and July, you said July. And so what was the beginning of it for you? Did you kind of hit the ground running? Did you kind of dip your toe in the water at first? How was it?
I started out part-time because I had a lot of indebtedness over my head. Owed a lot of people a lot of money. I was making decent money, but I wasn't by any means making a lot of money. So basically I started out part-time, still working with Verizon, just about 5-6 days a week. And of course, Sundays we were in church. Then on Thursday nights when I got home, I tried to make a few phone calls, try to set up appointments for maybe Friday evening when I got off, or Saturday evening when I got off. So I was only averaging maybe 6 appointments for 2 days on a part-time basis, because I wouldn't get out of work until 6 and 7 o'clock at night. I mean, we were
Wow.
working almost 12-hour days, to be honest with
Wow.
you, at Verizon. It was early in the morning, late at night, and they were really pushing us. And so we did that. My very first day going out, I probably did about $1,200–$1,500, and I only had a couple appointments that evening. The
Mm-hmm.
second day I went out, I think I did maybe 500. Then the following week I did the same thing. So within about a 3 to 4 week period, I probably produced about $5,000, just very, very, and I mean very part time. I'm
Yeah.
only talking a couple of hours a day. And I started thinking during this time, I said, if I'm doing $5,000 part time, only probably I might as well say 6 hours a week. That's
Mm-hmm.
about what it was out of for the whole month. What could I do if I really jumped all in? And so I did that 1 month. Then the next month, I really just jumped in, all in. And I believe that first month I did about 10,000. The second month I did about 20,000. But that was my first 6 months doing it. And within the first 6 months, I probably did close to 60, 70,000 just within a few months. And of course, that was a whole lot more because I was still learning, and
Sure.
I just didn't know what I didn't know. And but there was one thing that I messed up on, because the winter, which would have been February and March of 2019, I had over 15, close to $20,000 in chargebacks.
Oh, wow.
And it really, and I had to have a really come to Jesus meeting. And I, 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 I talked with Mike trying to figure out and what I was doing, because my whole sales thing in the past was get as much as you can, upgrade, push, upsell this, get the best phone, get the best case, just dig everything out. Well, I was doing the exact same thing in this business, which is absolutely wrong.
Yeah.
And so I was actually putting people in a higher premium that they really couldn't afford.
Mm.
And so I dug myself out of that indebtedness. I restructured my mindset on how to sell. And then that year of 2019, I did $306,000 in issue pay business. And that was my first full year.
Well, I'm seeing a couple things that are really sticking out to me. The first is your tremendous work ethic. Obviously, you were really working hard at Verizon. You had, got yourself to a level where you're doing well there. And the hours that you were working fitting this in at first, those are crazy. If you had come to me and asked like, hey, Gabe, do you think this is going to work? I think I would have told you no. Like, I don't like, unless you're just a crazy hard worker, a grinder. And obviously you were. So you saw the money. So you went into it full time. But something I really like that you said is obviously at Verizon, and you can correct me if I'm wrong saying this, but it sounds like kind of the mindset there was you were selling products that you knew were good. And so obviously they wanted them. But when it came to what you were selling it was kind of what was better for you because you wanted to
Exactly.
upgrade them, and you saw when you came into this industry, you're like, we can't be doing that. We got to be picking what's best for them, not just, on a moral place, of course, but also financially, because if you put people into products they can't afford, not only is that not great for them, but not great for you. And so that was a complete change in your mindset.
Yeah, I was to be honest with you, I was thinking more of myself than I was the client.
Sure.
I was trying to think of how much money can I make? How much can I get out of these people? And I had to go down a learning curve. It was a very hard learning curve, but a lot of that, I still have chargebacks today, but nothing even remotely close to that, because and of course, I'm an ordained minister. I pastored for many years also. I had to put on the mindset of a servant's heart, of a pastor's
Sure.
heart, to be able to serve people. And when I put on that servant's mindset to serve people, everything changed. And I stopped worrying about, I had to get this, I had to get this, I had to, as long as I took care of the customer, the client, and met their needs and to let it fit within their budget, then I actually started making money. And
Mm,
because more policies started sticking and staying on the books, then a month down the road, they're like, "Hey, we can't afford this,"
right.
and they were getting sticker shock and all that, and by that time, you cannot get them back, because they don't feel like that they can trust you, because you pushed them over their limit, to be honest. So
Right.
I just had to come up and really come up with a mindset of just what I did in the church was to serve people, to help people meet their needs. And one of the things I had to do, I had to listen to what they were wanting before I approached them on what we have to offer. And I still say God gave us two ears and one mouth. And if we just spend more time listening and less time speaking, you'll know exactly what you can do for your client.
Mm. Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. Well, hey, it looks like so work ethic wasn't an issue for you.
No,
How did you, coming into this industry where obviously you were, in a store, I would imagine customers coming to you, sales, very sounds like sales process also wasn't something that was a hurdle for you.
right.
What were, obviously, coming into an industry where you're now buying leads, where you're doing a lot on the phones, which I imagine you weren't really before at Verizon. How did that growth process look for you coming in here where say, hey, I have to buy leads now, I have to hit the phones really hard? Was that easy? Was it something that took time to get used to and get good at?
Well, I sucked at the phones. I was horrible at the phones. And there's still days that I'm horrible on the phones, and I've got a lot of stuff going on. So I mean, I try to do the best I can do, but I try to take advantage of every client that I have. Now, I'm with one thing that my work ethic, I'm willing to do what no one else is willing to do. I'm
Mm,
willing to stay and meet clients at 11, 12, 1 a.m. in the morning, or 5 a.m. in the morning,
wow.
whatever it takes to meet their need, to help them out, I'm willing to do. I mean, I have gotten up at 3 a.m., met a client at 5 a.m., and of course, we didn't get a sale, but I was willing to be there to help them on that particular one. I have been in homes at 11, 12, and 1 a.m. in the morning taking care of the whole family, because that was the only time, because they work long hours and that they wanted to do that. And I've always been willing to work. My wife always says I'm a workaholic and I need to slow down. But by looking at me, I'm probably about 100 pounds overweight, and and I probably need to hit the gym more than I do in the sales. But um, I do work hard. I have a desire to meet the needs of the people, and just help them. And even if it's a 25 to $50 premium policy per month, or to a $400 premium, and I look at everything there to try to help them out, meet the needs. And I always tell my clients when I go into a home, listen, we're going to talk about death, we're going to talk about money, but we're also going to talk about life. And if many of you really heard what Ray Lewis said during the conference, he really motivated about, and you spoke on life. We're here to help these, not them when they die, but we're here to help their family to live, to meet the needs that they need to keep living. Um, and when I approach it in a solution format, I'm able to meet the needs. I mean, I work hard, I try to take care, but I listen to the client, try to meet those needs. I know that I might have went around the world on that answer a little bit, but did it make sense?
No, it makes a lot of sense. I mean, two things are really apparent to me. One, that you have a sincere desire to help the people that you're sitting with, and that has been
Yes,
a huge advantage for you in this industry, because it's clear that obviously you're making great money, but you have a big why that is even bigger than your needs, to where it really appeals to you to go out and to help people and to make sure that them and their families are protected. And then
yes,
two, you answered my question really directly, in that it sounds like every insufficiency that you are hitting, you are overcoming with just very hard work. Like
yes,
I imagine that, like you said, you're bad on the phones. I imagine what that looked like at the beginning and still today is you go above and beyond, putting in the effort as far as how many dials and how many people you're calling to overcome that insufficiency. Is that right?
yes, absolutely. I will tell you this: there was a period of time that I got to the point that I wanted to try to grow the business. So I actually hired a dialer to dial for me. And it was a young man that was in class trying to learn. He was a little slow in trying to get he actually took the test 3 different times. And I
Oh, wow.
said, well, listen, I'm going to help you. If you don't mind dialing for me, I'm going to be with you because I believe you can really do this. And so pretty much most of 2020, he dialed for me. And now he's passed his test. He is contracted. He's working, and I'm back on hitting the phones again. So, but I'm constantly learning all the time. Even when I'm on the phones or in the home, I'm looking ways to try to improve.
Mm.
Because believe me, guys, I mean, I'm not that smart. Uh, I always say work hard, and it will cover up all of my stupidity. I mean, but because if you can get enough appointments, you're going to get those that you just walk into and say, where do I sign the dotted line? And I've had those. I mean, I've walked in and say, hey, so we need to get some life insurance on a final expense. He said, yeah, let me get you a table. You just tell me where I need to sign. I'm like, we don't even know how much you want yet. He said, oh, well, I just need some. I'm like, okay. So basically, as long as I don't insult them, and as long as I don't uh, 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 hurt their feelings, I mean, I'm gonna walk out of there with a sale as long as I still try to provide. Because I've actually turned sales away when people were wanting it, but I knew it was out of their budget. Uh,
Hmm.
but I said, if we're going to go this route, I'm going to say no, and I'm going to walk out of here. But if you'll listen to me, I'm going to help you out. And the client, and we're still taking charge in the home as much as possible. But we work hard, we take care of the clients first, and then the money comes later. The
Sure.
money comes, but you just got to work hard in this business. And I'm hoping in the near future I don't have to work as hard and be more in the office than out in the field all the time.
Sure. Sure. So your first full year in the 2019 in the field, what did you say that wrote again? 300 and what?
It was 306,
306. And then what'd you write this last year?
509,000.
509,000. So obviously, in your own words, there is a good chunk of things that you needed to overcome. What did that
Yes.
growth just from 2019 to 2020, obviously over $200,000 in additional premium that you wrote? What were the biggest things that you would say were improvements for you, things that you got better? Was it, and I know that's a broad question, but specifically in relating to leads, what you were doing on the phone and then what you were doing in the home? Were there big changes? Was it just more of everything? Tell us.
Well, um, my lead strategy in 2019 was not what it is in 2020 or today. I'm more versatile in my lead strategy. And I heard a bunch of people, especially Mike, he kept saying, well, you need to get 50 leads or 100 leads or do this. Well, I sat down with Mike Killen one day, and he told me, he said, listen, if you will do $1,000 a week, you'll do over $240,000 issue pay if you just go work just in buying leads. If you increase that, your issue paid business is going to increase also. So I really took that to heart and started noticing that not buying the leads, or let me rephrase it, not having the number of leads, but buying the leads of the dollar amount. So I worked my way up to 15, 18, 2,000, and now I'm averaging $2,000 to $3,000 a week in lead bill per week. And if I've got $2,000 to $3,000 in a lead bill each week, I've got the leads to be able to do it. I just got to go out and work it.
Right.
And I have found out that if you do over $2,000 a week in leads, you're going to do over $400,000 a year. You will do over $30,000 a month plus by just doing $2,000 a week, just on a dollar amount. I don't look at I don't look at how many leads I get, but I look at the dollar amount, and that's very important for all of us. And I'm doing retro leads, I'm doing CRM, instant internet leads. Those have been great. I've got some counties locked down for some Mail Pro. I've got LeadCo, I got ARM. I've just got a wide variety of leads that are constantly pouring in all the time. So I don't have to worry about that anymore. And I just looked at another LeadCo company. It's got a retro ARM, which is called a one and done. And I did this last year and went out in Middle Tennessee in 2 days, did over $17,000 in 2 days. Wow. And just a retro lead campaign. And so it's a real good program, but you've got to be consistent in everything that you do. Everything you need to be, when you're dialing, you need to be at the office 7:30, be prepared, and dialing by 8 a.m. And you stay there all day long until you get your minimum 15 appointments for 2 days. If you can work on 30 appointments a week, you're going to do over $30,000 to $40,000 a month. As long as you've got, and that's where I had the latter part of 2019 is when that clicked and things started changing. And I realized if I spent more money on leads, I'm going to make more money. And you just go out and you work them, and then you just become consistent. I've got my certain areas that I like to do. Even when my family wants to go on vacation, we went down to the beach. I did some part-time stuff, 3 days. I did 10 grand just on some internet and instant internet leads, and just did some stuff in the evening time. And I'm like, okay, 10 grand, 3 days. I can do this trip as a write-off. I love write-offs because the more you buy, I mean, you got to understand, I don't mind telling you this. I had $448,000 went through my checking account this past year. Now, when you put that type of dollar amount through your checking account, you better find some write-offs. Yeah, as much so the no government's going to take it.
Yeah, they're about to take a big bite.
That's right.
No kidding. Well, you gave a lot of good info there. So it sounds like, main thing, and this is just, we do this Hall of Fame producers, interview just about every week. And it gets silly almost how much of the info is is copy and paste. Like it's almost like someone's handing everybody a script and is like, say this stuff. And I just know it's it's buy leads, and it's the more that you buy, the more business you're gonna write. I mean,
Absolutely.
regardless of, and I would say that, I see every skill level on here. Sometimes I interview someone and I'm in awe of them, and I'm like, wow, for sure this guy or this girl is incredible. More often than not, I'm interviewing someone just like me who's just a hard worker and is just a normal person. And it seems like everywhere in between, those people are telling me the same thing, regardless of skill, is like, hey, you spend $1,000 a week in leads, you might write, between 20 and 30. And if you spend 2,000 or more, you might write between 30, 40, 50. You're going to upgrade it. And it's as simple as that. And so you just really bought leads and went to work. And it
That's
seems
all
like
I,
you're consistent. You're just always doing it.
right. That's
What
all
what
it
would
is.
you say?
It's nothing fancy.
What would you say is the key to your consistency? Have you always been that way? Do you obviously you love serving people, and it's very evident in everything that you've said. And what is your why in this business? Why do you work so hard?
Good question. My main why is my wife's got lupus and she can't work.
Mm.
And it's an autoimmune disease. She helps me out. She is a nurse, but she can't work inside the on her feet for 8, 10, and 12 hours a day.
Sure.
Then on top of that, um, my daughter went through a bad divorce, and we've got 2 grandbabies through them, and their dad was a drunk and an alcoholic. And
Mm.
so they're my daughter and the girls, they stay with me. And through what I do, my wife doesn't work, my daughter doesn't work, and of course right now I've got my granddaughters in a private school, so they can go to a private Christian school. And to be honest with you, that is my main why. I want to make sure that my family don't have to work if they don't want to work. Now, my wife and my daughter, and of course, everyone may know my son, Daniel or Corbin. He's out working hard also. But both of those went back and got their license also. And I always told them, I said, listen, you don't have to work if you don't want to. I'm going to work hard enough to take care of the whole family.
Mm.
And 2000, about middle way through 2019, my wife came away from a public job. She'll help me part-time. She takes care of the grandbaby. She takes care of the house. She works hard. I think she works harder than I do. And she's a wonderful woman. She, if you know anything about lupus, it can be very painful at times. And she doesn't complain at all, but she keeps going. But my main reason and my main why is my daughter, who basically is going back to school, and I have took care of her, took care of the grandbabies, and took care of my wife just on my income by doing this job. That's
Wow.
my why.
That's powerful. That's powerful. And what a blessing to, there's lots of jobs that we can do, and all work is fulfilling, to a degree, but to have a job where you are so obviously fulfilling a desire of yours to be a servant to other people, and using this to serve your family, through their struggles and your needs, that must be so fulfilling. I'm sure you feel this job is a godsend.
Very much so. Very much so.
So doing a transition here, from personal production, obviously you're building a team. What is your team doing right now on a monthly basis?
We are we went from 22,000 last January in 2020 to December, and this is where we're working on, because this is where I'm weak at, and I'm still learning this process. We did over $250,000 in December, or
Wow.
$212,000 in December. So we went from 22,000 to 212, 20,000. We've had a few people. January was a rough month for the team. February was a rough month. We had some people that did some bad business, basically some illegal business. And, but that's another story, and we're bouncing back from that. And I am right now, we have redid our ZipRecruiter, and I'm in the process of adding additional 50 to probably by the next 2 months, I'm gonna have 100 cities across America in ZipRecruiter campaigns. And we just started that. I'm probably spending close to $2,000 to $3,000 a month just on ZipRecruiter campaigns just to do some ads. I've hired, I've got a recruiter in place now. My wife's helping me on some administrative stuff also. So so we're paying salary to people that's working for us. And of course, we've got the business, or we got the building that right there in Chattanooga. If anybody ever needs a place to come to, if you're in the Chattanooga, Tennessee area, our doors are open. Love to have you come by anytime. May the 17th, we are actually going to have a sales conference right there at the Embassy Suite, right there in Chattanooga. And we're working on getting some people in place to come by. So if any of you guys want to come by, I'd love to have you. And it's going to be exciting.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So obviously went through some trials, you know, recently, but if you could real quick, so obviously 2020, you turned on the gas, you know, at the beginning of the year, it was pretty much your production, you know, because you were a top producer and maybe a handful of other people doing just a little bit. By the end, you had a team cranking it out. What did that growth look like for you? How'd you do that in such a short amount of time?
Well, a lot of that was through warm market. We started getting, my son and I, we both worked at.
Oh, you muted yourself.
We had a lot of people by warm market, people on Facebook. Every time I'm turning around and I'm trying to drip on Facebook, my son and I are, and and I'm not a big social media guy, to be honest with you. You got to understand, I'm old school. I'm 50 years old, and some people that's not that old, but my body feels like it's about 70. So I'm hoping this year that I'm going to cut back, and we're increasing it. We did about 185, I think, for January. That's where we started having some problems. And then in February, it was a continuation. It dropped back a little bit more, but we're fixing it. We found the problem. I've got one guy that's rolling up right at $35,000 in debt on me, and that's fun. So, but listen, am I down? No, I'm not down. This is just part of the job, and you deal with it and you go on. In this business, you're going to have your ups and downs, but I think your mindset's going to matter how you handle it. You can let it destroy you, or you can grab a hold of it and use it for you to grow. And whatever stage you are in the business, you're going to come through some obstacles. You're going to come through some objections, some bad times. But if you use it for a learning position in your life, you can make it a stepping stone instead of a sinking sand.
Sure.
And that's what we need to do. And that's what I've taken this on right now as a stepping stone and not as a sinking sand. And we've had some meetings with some guys where we're trying to push hard to get everybody at 30,000 a month, and then build off of that. And I think if we can work on 30 appointments a week, 30,000 a month, you'll see yourself over Hall of Fame by doing that.
Yeah, Absolutely. Absolutely. And, it's funny, what you just described, and I've talked to so many people who are growing. When I was first starting to really, try to push to grow, I reached out to some people who are obviously, where I want to be. And Nick Ayala said something, and I probably repeated it 20, 30 different times, and I've just seen it lived out. He's like, you know what? He's like, is when you're really trying to grow, he's like something about that 3 to 400,000 mark. He's like, you're gonna be right there. He's like, and that's gonna be the hardest this is ever gonna be. He's like, it
Mm-hmm.
is just such a obstacle, it feels like, to get over that. He's like, but when you finally get over that hump, it's like you're pushing a boulder. And when you
Yep.
finally, and that's like the point where you're right at the precipice of the hill and all that weight is on you. And when you finally get over that, the boulder's going downhill. So,
Right.
so obviously that's where you are, and I've talked to
Yeah.
a lot of people who are right there in the same thing. Like, it's as magic as buying more leads equals more money. Something about hitting that point. It's like
Right.
30 appointments. It's guaranteed you're going to make money. $250,000 issue paid, guarantee you're going to have problems. you know,
Right.
it's, it's that sure of a thing. So just
Well,
another
many of
thing.
us, we are actually talked to Mike Schroeder yesterday, and there's a bunch of us that's jumping on the plane headed out to Las Vegas, and we're going to have a meeting with Andrew Taylor because their team is just phenomenal, and it's growing leaps and bounds.
Absolutely.
They put just their team as a whole contracted over 900 people in 1 week this past week, and
That's crazy.
so oh, it's just insane. And I know it can be done. And if they can do it, why can't we do it? I look at Andrew Taylor. He is a smart young man. He's great. He cares about his people. He wants to really push hard. And if we can get ourselves around successful people that is doing it, and then we duplicate that, I think we can see success within this. So I think it's this one thing I like about Family First Life is there's nothing wrong with plagiarism, just copying everything that everybody else is doing, especially if it's successful. Now, if it's not successful, don't do it. But
Yeah.
if it's really working, just copy it and go on.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, hey, I want Darrell, I know you got running appointments. I want to be respectful of your time. You've given us some great info, and I really appreciate it. I like to take a minute or two and open it up
Sure.
to questions in the group that the group might have, and then ask you for a parting shout. Anybody got a quick question for?
I do. I do.
Go ahead, John.
All right. So my question is, so just for you guys to know, I am a new agent. I just joined FFL. My question to you guys is, when you guys first joined, what was the hardest thing starting?
All right. Well, my hardest thing was my mindset. I've always been in commission sales. Commission didn't bother me, but this was a little bit different than anything I've ever done. If you put on your mindset that if you'll just trust the process, and if you will buy your leads, run 30 appointments, make sure as a new agent, I encourage you to call your manager when you're in the home. Because if you call your manager once you leave that home, you're not going to get a sale whatsoever. And I remember my very first time in the home, I actually called Mike 5 different times inside that same home. Number one, I was nervous. I felt like I really didn't know what I was doing. But Mike told me this: I will be there to help you, but I'm only a phone call away, but I can't help you if you don't call me. And there was times that I thought I knew what I was doing, tried to handle it on my own, still didn't get the sale. Then I called afterwards, after I left. Mike said, well, why didn't you call me in the home? I could have helped you. And I'm like, yep. And so my pride got in the way, and you've got to stay very humble in this business. and stay very hungry and be willing, and don't be scared to buy leads. One thing that I have learned in this business, scared money don't make money. And so you've really got to buy the leads and work hard and be consistent in everything you do. Don't try to reinvent the wheel.
Right. Yeah. You said it all right there. I mean, it's mindset was definitely the biggest thing for me. And for many of my new agents, just being consistent and going out and working. It's huge. It's the biggest.
779-7821.
Hey, Ivan, you unmuted yourself. I don't know if you did that on purpose.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. That was very, very right on the money.
Not a problem. Hope we can help.
And then one more. Does anyone else have a quick question? No. All right. Well, Darrell, if you had a parting shot, obviously we have everyone on here from, people in my situation they're selling a lot and are trying to grow. And then obviously guys like John who are just getting started. If you had a parting shout, that you think would apply to everybody, what would that be?
Don't be afraid to work. Be different when it comes to working. If you don't work, you're not going to make any money. The more families we can help, the more money you're going to make. And I've realized it's not about always the money, but the money comes. But once I started serving the families, the money came. And when I was thinking of myself, I lost money. So start thinking about others, how you can serve others, serve your family, even your coworkers, your other agents, serve them too. See what you can do. The more you give away of your time, maybe leads, maybe money, the more you'll receive. And I've noticed that, especially this past year, I've started giving more away and I started receiving more. And so be humble, be hungry, don't be afraid to work, and don't be afraid to buy leads, and you'll be just fine.